You've had the perfect comeback at 2 a.m. for an argument that ended 3 days ago, and you delivered it flawlessly, to your ceiling. You know the one, the thing you should have said. Sharp, calm, devastating. You finally nailed it. Hours too late. In the dark. To no one. And a tired part of you thought, what is wrong with me? Nothing. That's the short answer. But stay with me, because the real one is stranger, and a lot kinder than you've been told. There's a certain kind of person who can't shut their mind off. You reply to a text, then read your own message back 4 times wondering how it landed. You leave a conversation and immediately start editing it. You lie down to sleep, and your brain treats it like the meeting finally started. And the cruel part isn't that you think too much, it's that you know you're doing it, and knowing doesn't stop it. Most people call this anxiety, a nervous habit, something to relax your way out of. That framing misses almost everything about what's really happening in your head. Welcome to Cognitive Psychology. Today we're going into the mind of the person who thinks too much. What's really happening in there, why it started, and what it quietly says about who you are. Stay with me to the end, because the part that matters most is the part almost nobody tells you. Here's the flip. What you call overthinking, your brain calls working. It doesn't feel those 2 a.m. loops as malfunction. It feels them as effort, as trying to solve something. The problem isn't that your mind is broken. It's that it's doing something sophisticated in situations that don't need it. Because there's a difference between thinking toward an answer and circling one. Psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema spent decades on this exact loop. She called it rumination, running the same thought over and over without landing anywhere. And her research found something uncomfortable. This kind of thinking doesn't process the pain. It preserves it. It keeps the feeling fresh, on repeat, and over time it's been linked to a higher risk of depression. You're not solving the problem. You're rehearsing it, in slightly different costumes, none of which help. Just enough science to make the rest click. The moment you stop focusing on the outside world, no task, no screen, a network in your brain switches on. Researchers describe it as the default mode network. It replays the past, imagines the future, reads people, narrates you to yourself. In most people, it hums quietly. In people who overthink, it doesn't hum. It runs. Loud, constant, exhausting. It's not that you have more thoughts than everyone else. It's that yours don't get the signal to power down. And this isn't a glitch. It's an old program running with terrifying efficiency. One your mind built long ago, for good reasons. Watch how it shows up in your day. You'll recognize every one of these. Start with a text. You need to cancel plans. A normal person types, "So sorry, can we reschedule?" and sends it in 9 seconds. You open that same message, and something else begins. You write it, read it back. Decide sorry sounds like you did something wrong, so you delete it. Then it feels cold, so you add it back. You stare at reschedule, wondering if it sounds like you assume they're free for you. You write 3 versions. Maybe you send one to a friend for a second opinion. And around the 20-minute mark, you send something almost identical to the first thing you wrote, and still read it back afterward, wondering if it landed okay. If you just laughed a little too hard at that, yeah. This one's for you. Now it stops being funny. You are extraordinary at being gentle with other people. A friend spirals and you know exactly what to say. You're not a burden. You didn't ruin anything. You mean it. You can talk someone off the ledge in 10 seconds. Then you lie down at night and say the opposite to yourself. You're too much. You ruined it. Nobody needs you here. Same mind, same voice, completely different rules, and the harsher ones are the ones you save for yourself. And there's a reason behind this. Research on empathy suggests that the people most attuned to others' emotions, the ones who read a room best, are often the same ones who turn that sensitivity inward and scan themselves the hardest. It's empathy. Just empathy without an off switch, aimed at the one target it should never hit at full strength. So you try to stop. And here's the part that feels designed to torture you. Trying not to think about something makes it come back harder. A psychologist named Daniel Wegner proved this. He told people, don't think about a white bear. They managed it, barely, for a few seconds. The moment they stopped forcing it, the thought flooded back stronger than if he'd never mentioned it. Suppression didn't clear it. It built a debt. And the thought came to collect. So every time you told yourself, just stop overthinking, every time someone said, just relax, don't worry, you were quietly loading the spring. You weren't weak for failing. You were up against your own wiring. And there's a deeper reason. When you run a scenario, build the perfect argument, rehearse the disaster, some researchers suggest your brain may hand you a small reward just for the act of thinking it through. Not for solving anything, for seeming to. A little hit of look how productive we're being. So the loop feeds itself. You're not stuck because you're undisciplined. Part of your brain is being quietly paid to keep you there. Let's go all the way down. Because I don't think this is really a thinking problem at all. For a lot of people it started early. Not with drama, just with unpredictability. A home where you couldn't tell what mood you'd walk into. Where a small mistake might land as nothing, or as everything, and you never knew which. Where being one step ahead, reading the footsteps, catching the shift in a face before it turned, was how you stayed okay. So a young, sharp, sensitive brain learned the most logical strategy it had. Anticipate everything. If I see it coming, I can survive it. And it worked. It kept you safe. Here's the part that gets me. You grew up. The house changed. The danger dissolved, maybe years ago. But the strategy stayed, because it was never really a habit. It was loyalty. You are still, every night, protecting a version of yourself who needed protecting a long time ago. Your mind never got the message that the emergency ended. So it keeps showing up for a shift that was called off years back, standing guard over a door no one's coming through anymore. Your brain doesn't hate you. It has been trying to keep a kid safe this whole time. It's just a little too devoted to notice the kid made it out. So what do you do with that? Not much of what you've been told. You don't fix this by fighting the thoughts. You've tried. It builds the debt. You change your relationship to them. It starts smaller than you'd think. The difference between I'm a failure and I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. 4 words. And suddenly there's a gap. You're not drowning in the current anymore. You're on the bank, watching it move. The thought's still there. It just isn't you. It's weather. And you can't argue your nervous system into calm. It doesn't speak logic. It speaks the body. The cold water on your face, the weight in your hands, the 5 things you can see in the room. Not as a trick to stop thinking, but as a message in the only language that old alarm understands. The danger's over. We're grown now. It's safe to put it down. The goal was never a quiet mind. It's being able to look at the spiral and say, I see what you're doing. I know why you learned it. And I decide how much of tonight you get. That's not a small thing. That's most of it. If you've spent your whole life being the calmest voice in everyone else's crisis and the harshest one in your own, hear this correctly. That mind of yours isn't the enemy. It's the loyal, exhausted, over-prepared part of you that never stopped standing guard. It doesn't need to be silenced. It just needs to be told, finally, that it's allowed to rest. So tell me, which part of this felt uncomfortably like reading your own diary? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and I think you'll find you're in more familiar company down there than you expect. And if this is the first time in a while that something described the inside of your head correctly, subscribe to Cognitive Psychology, so you and I can keep decoding these quiet corners of the mind together. The ones nobody else seems to talk about. Thank you for being here. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time.